The headlines called it America's ultimate air superiority weapon. The president called it something nobody has ever seen before.
It's something the likes of which nobody has seen before.
Defense contractors promised a revolutionary sixth-generation fighter that would dominate any battlefield. But what if everything you've been told about the F-47 stealth fighter is carefully crafted marketing designed to hide some uncomfortable truths? On March 21, 2025, when Donald Trump stood in the Oval Office announcing Boeing's $20 billion contract win for the F-47,
the Air Force is going to be awarding the contract for the next generation air dominance platform to Boeing.
Most Americans felt a surge of pride. Finally, our military would have the most advanced fighter jet on Earth. The media painted it as another triumph of American aerospace engineering. Defense analysts praised its cutting-edge capabilities. But dig beneath the surface, and a very different picture emerges. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you think you know about this program. The F-47 isn't just another fighter jet with some new features. It represents a fundamental shift that could actually weaken American air power, not strengthen it. The design choices being made, the contractor selection process, and the underlying assumptions driving this program all point to a troubling conclusion. We might be building exactly the wrong aircraft at exactly the wrong time. Welcome to Jet Insight, where we uncover the stories behind the headlines. Today, we're revealing why America's most hyped fighter jet might actually be our biggest aerospace mistake in decades. Main content. Let's start with what everyone thinks they know about the F-47. The official story sounds incredible. This sixth-generation fighter will be faster than anything ever built, more maneuverable than the F-22, and so stealthy that enemies will never see it coming. It will coordinate with swarms of drone wingmen, turning a single pilot into a commander of an entire aerial army. The Air Force promises it will have longer range, better reliability, and lower costs than current fighters. Sounds amazing, right? Here's what they're not telling you. Every single one of these promises comes with massive asterisks that fundamentally change what this aircraft actually represents. The first shock comes when you look at the actual design. Remember, this is supposed to be America's stealthiest fighter ever built. Yet the official renderings show something that breaks every rule of stealth design we've followed for 40 years. The F-47 features canards, small wings mounted in front of the main wings, that stick out like radar beacons. To understand how revolutionary this is, you need to know that every American stealth aircraft since the F-117 has been designed around one principle: eliminate anything that reflects radar waves. The F-22 has no protruding surfaces. The F-35 hides everything inside its body. The B-2 bomber looks like a smooth flying wing, but the F-47 deliberately includes features that increase its radar signature. Why would Boeing do this? The answer reveals something disturbing about what this aircraft is really designed to do. Those canards provide excellent maneuverability for dogfighting, but terrible stealth characteristics. This suggests the F-47 isn't actually being built as a stealth penetrator that slips undetected into enemy territory. It's being built as a conventional fighter that expects to be detected and forced into close-range combat. This completely contradicts everything the Air Force has said publicly about the aircraft's mission. They claim it will operate deep in contested airspace, using stealth to avoid enemy defenses. But the design suggests they actually expect it to be discovered and forced to fight its way through enemy fighters using superior agility rather than invisibility. If you're starting to see how different this really is from what we've been told, type "proud" in the comments below. The implications go far beyond just one design choice. For decades, American air strategy has been built around the concept that stealth aircraft can penetrate enemy defenses without being detected, strike their targets, and escape before enemies can respond. This strategy worked brilliantly in Iraq, Serbia, and other conflicts where we faced less sophisticated opponents. But here's what defense planners know, but won't say publicly. That strategy might already be obsolete. Both China and Russia claim they've developed radar systems that can detect stealth aircraft at much longer ranges than previously thought. There are reports that low-frequency radar networks can track even the most advanced stealth fighters. Some analysts believe that China has figured out how to use Starlink satellite signals to passively detect stealth intruders. If stealth technology is becoming less effective, then building another stealth fighter makes no sense. It would be like developing better armor for knights just as gunpowder was being invented. The F-47's canard design suggests that Boeing and the Air Force know this, but haven't admitted it publicly. They're quietly building a dogfighter while publicly promising a stealth penetrator. Now let's talk about who's building this aircraft, because this reveals another layer of deception. When the Air Force announced Boeing as the winner, they emphasized the company's aviation heritage and engineering expertise.
To Boeing, as you know, was highly competed for. There was a lot of competition. Generals.
What they didn't mention is that Boeing has become synonymous with program disasters over the past decade. The KC-46 tanker program has experienced massive cost overruns and technical failures. Boeing has delivered tankers that can't safely refuel certain aircraft due to design flaws. The Starliner spacecraft has faced years of delays and safety issues that have prevented it from carrying astronauts reliably. The 737 MAX crisis killed hundreds of people due to faulty software and inadequate pilot training. Most recently, their T-7 trainer program has been delayed repeatedly due to production problems. In September 2024, Boeing fired their entire defense division leadership due to billions in losses and failed programs. This is the company we've now entrusted with the most important fighter program in American history. The selection makes sense only when you realize that Boeing desperately needed this contract to avoid potential bankruptcy of their defense operations. Industry analysts have called the F-47 award an existential bailout for Boeing rather than a merit-based competition. The Air Force couldn't allow Boeing's defense division to collapse because it would leave Lockheed Martin with a virtual monopoly on advanced fighter production. So instead of choosing the best aircraft, they chose the contractor that most needed saving. This political calculation has massive implications for the aircraft's ultimate performance. Boeing is essentially learning how to build sixth-generation fighters while simultaneously trying to avoid corporate collapse. They're dealing with quality control problems, experienced engineer shortages, and financial pressure that could compromise every aspect of the program. The timeline promises reveal another layer of deception. Air Force Chief of Staff General David Ulvin claims that the F-47 will make its first flight by the end of Trump's administration in early 2029. That's less than 4 years from contract award to first flight for what's supposed to be the most complex fighter ever built. Compare this to historical precedent. The F-22 took 6 years from contract award to first flight, and that was for an aircraft using mostly proven technologies. The F-35 has been in development for over 20 years and still faces significant technical problems. Yet we're supposed to believe that Boeing can design, build, and test a revolutionary sixth-generation fighter in half the time. This timeline is physically impossible unless Boeing is either using much simpler technology than advertised or accepting significant technical risks that will cause problems later. Neither option suggests we're getting the revolutionary aircraft being promised. The most ambitious deception involves the drone wingman concept. Trump announced that the F-47 would fly with many drones that would multiply its combat effectiveness. The Air Force plans to buy 1,000 collaborative combat aircraft at $30 million each. This sounds like science fiction becoming reality. Here's what they're not telling you. The software required to make this work doesn't exist yet and might not be possible with current technology. We're talking about artificial intelligence systems, sophisticated enough to make split-second tactical decisions in aerial combat while coordinating with human pilots and multiple other drones simultaneously. Consider that the F-35, using much simpler software, still suffers from computer crashes and sensor failures that can temporarily disable the aircraft. Lockheed Martin has spent billions trying to make the F-35's basic systems work reliably, with limited success. Now, Boeing promises to create software infinitely more complex for an aircraft they're building on an impossible timeline. Pentagon insiders who spoke anonymously expressed serious doubts about current drone technology. One veteran observer noted that Air Force officers supervising the program seem not nearly skeptical enough about contractor promises. The enthusiasm for futuristic capabilities is overwhelming basic engineering reality checks. Boeing's track record with complex software systems suggests this integration will face significant problems. The maintenance requirements tell another story about what this aircraft really represents. Current stealth fighters require extensive maintenance between flights, partly due to complex radar-absorbing materials and systems. The Air Force promises that the F-47 will have higher availability than current fighters, but provides no technical explanation for how this will be achieved. Ground crews will need extensive training on completely new systems and technologies. The Air Force already faces critical shortages in maintenance personnel, and adding another complex aircraft type will strain these resources further. This suggests the F-47 might spend more time in maintenance hangars than in the air, regardless of its theoretical capabilities. The supply chain reveals additional vulnerabilities. F-47 production involves thousands of suppliers across the country, creating political pressure to continue the program regardless of performance problems. Once production begins and subcontracts are distributed across multiple congressional districts, canceling or significantly modifying the program becomes politically impossible. Boeing has invested $2 billion in expanding their St. Louis production facilities, demonstrating corporate confidence, but also creating financial pressure to begin production before testing is complete. This investment will become a political argument for continuing the program, even if significant problems emerge. For those of you who've served our nation or continue supporting our military community, we invite you to join our network of veterans and defense professionals. Your experience helps us understand these complex issues and hold our leaders accountable for the equipment our service members deserve. The technological assumptions underlying the F-47 program reveal perhaps the deepest deception of all. The entire concept assumes that manned fighters will remain relevant in future conflicts dominated by hypersonic missiles, space-based weapons, and autonomous systems. China and Russia are investing heavily in technologies designed to make traditional fighter aircraft obsolete. Hypersonic anti-ship missiles can strike aircraft carriers before their fighters can respond. Long-range surface-to-air missiles can engage aircraft hundreds of miles from their targets. Satellite-based weapons could potentially disable aircraft before they leave the ground. Against these threats, building more traditional fighters, even very advanced ones, might represent fighting the last war rather than preparing for the next one. The F-47's design suggests the Air Force recognizes some of these challenges but hasn't fundamentally rethought their approach to air superiority. Alternative approaches could provide better capability at lower cost. Distributed operations using larger numbers of less expensive aircraft might offer greater overall combat power while reducing single point of failure risks. Space-based assets could provide capabilities that complement or substitute for some traditional fighter functions. The artificial intelligence implications deserve special attention. The F-47's drone coordination requirements represent one of the most ambitious military AI projects ever attempted. Success would require breakthroughs in machine learning, sensor fusion, and autonomous decision-making that current technology cannot support. Failure of these AI systems in combat could leave F-47 pilots operating expensive aircraft without their promised force multiplication capabilities. Worse, unreliable AI could make wrong decisions that endanger friendly forces or cause unintended escalation in conflicts. The cybersecurity vulnerabilities created by connecting multiple aircraft through data links and AI systems provide new attack vectors for sophisticated adversaries. Enemy hackers could potentially disable or redirect drone wingmen, turning American technological advantages into liabilities. These concerns aren't theoretical. Both China and Russia have demonstrated sophisticated cyber warfare capabilities. The more complex and networked our military systems become, the more vulnerable they are to cyber attacks that could disable them without firing a shot. The industrial base implications extend far beyond just the F-47 program. Boeing's struggles reflect broader problems within American aerospace manufacturing. We've consolidated too much capability into too few companies, creating vulnerabilities when any single contractor faces problems. The loss of experienced engineers, manufacturing expertise, and institutional knowledge threatens our ability to develop advanced military systems. The F-47 program might represent one of the last opportunities to preserve critical aerospace capabilities, regardless of whether the aircraft itself proves successful. International competitors, particularly China, are rapidly developing their own aerospace industries with substantial government support. Their sixth-generation fighter programs benefit from focused national investment and integrated development approaches that our fragmented defense industry struggles to match. The congressional oversight challenges reveal another systemic problem. Once major defense programs begin production, they become nearly impossible to cancel due to political and economic pressures. Members of Congress protect programs that provide jobs in their districts, regardless of military effectiveness or cost efficiency. This dynamic encourages contractors to make unrealistic promises during competition, knowing that political pressure will prevent cancellation even if they fail to deliver promised capabilities. The F-47 program appears to follow this familiar pattern. The budget implications could force difficult choices about other military priorities. The enormous costs of the F-47, B-21, and Sentinel programs might require reducing personnel, cutting maintenance budgets, or delaying other essential capabilities. We could end up with impressive individual weapon systems, but an overall military that's less capable due to resource constraints. These trade-offs rarely receive public attention because they involve complex budget calculations rather than exciting new technologies. But the cumulative effect could significantly weaken American military capability while creating the appearance of technological advancement. The alliance implications deserve serious consideration. Our European and Pacific allies are developing their own sixth-generation fighter programs, partly because they doubt American reliability and partly because they want industrial independence. The F-47's export limitations could accelerate this trend. If allies develop comparable capabilities independently, American influence over their military planning and operations will decline. We could find ourselves with the most advanced fighter in the world, but fewer partners willing to integrate their operations with ours. The training implications represent another hidden challenge. Preparing pilots to operate the F-47 effectively will require completely new training programs, simulators, and support systems. These costs rarely appear in initial program estimates, but can easily add billions to total program expenses. The complexity of coordinating with drone wingmen will require training scenarios that current facilities cannot support. Building this training infrastructure will take years and enormous investment, potentially delaying operational capability, even if the aircraft itself performs as promised. So what does all this mean? The F-47 represents the culmination of decades of defense acquisition problems disguised as technological triumph. We're building an aircraft that costs too much, promises capabilities we can't deliver, and addresses threats that might not exist while ignoring challenges that definitely do. The canard sign reveals that stealth might be less important than we've been told. The contractor selection shows that industrial politics matters more than technical merit. The timeline proves that political pressure trumps engineering reality. The software requirements demonstrate that we're promising science fiction while delivering expensive disappointment. This doesn't reflect poorly on our military personnel, who will make whatever aircraft they're given work as effectively as possible. It reflects a defense acquisition system that consistently overpromises and underdelivers while consuming enormous resources that could be better used elsewhere. The F-47 might eventually prove successful despite these problems. American engineering ingenuity and military professionalism have overcome similar challenges before. But success will require acknowledging current problems rather than pretending they don't exist. Our adversaries are watching these developments carefully. They see the cost overruns, schedule delays, and technical compromises that plague American defense programs. They're designing their strategies around our weaknesses rather than our strengths. The ultimate question isn't whether the F-47 will be a good aircraft. It's whether this approach to maintaining air superiority makes sense in an era of rapid technological change and resource constraints. The evidence suggests we might be investing enormous resources in yesterday's solutions to tomorrow's problems. The men and women of our armed forces deserve better than programs driven by industrial politics and unrealistic promises. They deserve honest assessments of threats, realistic timelines for development, and equipment designed to win future conflicts rather than fight past wars. The F-47 program still has time to address these problems, but only if we acknowledge them honestly and make difficult decisions about priorities and capabilities. Continuing to pretend that everything is proceeding according to plan will only make the eventual reckoning more painful and expensive. Thank you for joining us for this deep examination of America's most important fighter program. The F-47 represents both the promise and the peril of American military aviation. Understanding what this program really represents is essential for making informed decisions about our nation's defense. If this analysis has opened your eyes to the realities behind the headlines, please support our work by liking this video and subscribing for more in-depth defense coverage. Share your thoughts in the comments about what aspects of the F-47 program concern you most, and let us know what other defense topics you'd like us to investigate. Your engagement helps us continue providing the honest analysis our military community deserves.